All right, I'm going to take a quick look at some of the weekly charts. One of the things I've mentioned in the past is that most of the time I prefer to see the weekly stochastics get oversold before I try and pick a bottom. Now, I did, as you know, some of you know from watching previous videos, when we get an intermediate trend line break, I did give that a shot, but we got stopped out of that a couple days ago. So we're kind of back on the sidelines. We're getting close in gold, miners, and silver still has a ways to go. And I think silver will continue to show relative strength during this decline, and that's where I want to be when I'm ready to buy again. But we're not quite oversold just yet. We probably have to make a lower low, and on the gold chart that would be a break below 1850. I'm guessing we may have to come down and test 1800 on gold before we're finally done with this, but we're getting close. The miners are a little bit weaker than the metals. They're probably, there's a little selling pressure also coming from the stock market that might be affecting the miners, so they're a little closer to oversold. They've just started to tag it. They're trying to break through this support zone right here this week. All right, I'll draw that in there. You can see we've got a support zone on this pivot from back in March. This first big leg up. Miners are threatening to break through that today. We'll have to see how we close. I think we've got a little bit further to go in the miners as well. Sometimes they'll bottom ahead of metals, but usually not like a week or two ahead of metals. They will sometimes bottom a day or two ahead of metals, but like I said, I think we probably got to break 1850 in gold before we're done with this intermediate decline. So a little bit further to go on the weekly stochastics on both of these charts. So I'm guessing next week is probably going to be another down week, especially with there's bound to be a lot of volatility ahead of the elections and maybe after the elections if we don't have a clear winner. Wednesday morning, I suspect there's going to be a lot more civil unrest, probably rioting, and that may create selling pressure in everything. And I don't, I suspect gold will probably not benefit either, and probably the only thing that will benefit will be the dollar. Sentiment-wise, the intermediate term sentiment in gold is still not low enough to where I would be comfortable trying to call a bottom. We're still at about 56, 57% bulls. I'd like to see that at least get down to 50% bulls, preferably a little lower. And then finally, I noted this in a previous video that almost always price will drop below the 100-day moving average before an ICL is finished, and you can see we've done that in GDX. And let me put up the chart of gold and silver because they are just starting to break that. All right, so you can see we've just, was it yesterday, maybe the day before, we finally closed below that 100-day simple moving average. Again, I don't think that this is going to turn immediately on the first close below this. Probably going to have to break below this daily cycle low. It sure looks to me like this daily cycle has decided to left translate. I believe this was day 12. Has decided to left translate, and that should mean that we're going to make a lower low here. So we're still in the stair-stepping down process. We're still making lower lows. You can see this low is below this low, and lower highs. So at no point in here have we made a higher high. Breaking a high of a previous daily cycle. So this was the daily cycle high of this daily cycle. Then we got the high here, the cycle left translated. It looks like we've got a top right here on day 12. So this rally obviously did not break above this one. So we're still in the declining phase of the intermediate cycle. We're still stair-stepping down. And my assumption at this point, until proven otherwise, is that at some point here, gold is going to break below 1850, and we'll get at least one more leg down, maybe to test this 1800 support zone. And let me widen the chart. All right, so at this point, it looks to me like, as I said, this daily cycle is left translating. That should mean it's going to break below this pivot at 1850, and we've got strong support right here at this triple top at roughly about between 1800 and 1810. So it looks to me like this intermediate decline, it wants to test this support before we're done. So at this point, I noted in my previous video, we got stopped out of our long positions, and now we're just kind of sitting on the sidelines, and uh, I'm avoiding or trying to avoid at the moment right now getting sucked in a little bit too early. Um, and I'm probably going to wait and see if we can't get a test of this support zone before I look to try and add back long positions. Now there are people that are holding their positions old turkey, and you can certainly do that. You know, it'll save you from pulling your hair out. That during this decline, there's just been so many erratic moves up and down. It's just taking money away from bulls and bears alike. But we are in a bull market, so I think you have to assume that at some point this intermediate decline will be done, just like this one was done, and this one was done, and this one was done, and this one was done. And once they're done, then you're going to get another advancing phase that will make higher highs. So, even though it's always painful to have to weather a drawdown, they end, and then the bull market resumes, and the bull market makes a higher high. So uh, once we finally get finished with this, I am assuming that the bull market will resume, and it's going to break above this high here. I think this was at about 20,087 or 89, one of those, and go on to make higher highs, maybe big new highs. I'm tentatively have a target that could reach maybe 2,500 during the next intermediate advance, but we're just in a very erratic, very difficult, more or less sideways turn, trying to get through this correction. And then once everybody gets frustrated, once everybody gives up and quits trying to pick a bottom, then we'll get the bottom, and then we'll start the advancing phase of the next intermediate cycle. And I think that phase is going to be uh, very profitable, as we should finally get a sustained breakout above this 2011 high.